Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." Now, humans are complex creatures. We don't really know why we do a lot of things we do. Very few of us are self-aware enough to understand our true why, what our true motivations are. And that's why self-awareness is probably the most important thing that you can develop as a human on an ongoing basis, never-ending process. Me, for example, and my why for health and success are rooted in certain things that I don't feel like most people have thought about or are aware of or worried about. Rooted in the long-term future, which is, again, kind of contrary to how most humans think, where it's immediate reward, immediate feedback loops, things like that, because that's where our biology was designed. And for whatever reason, genetics, upbringing, whatever, I tend to think longer term, and I have a longer time preference than the average person. So for me, I don't like taking the risk with my health so that I have to rely on some drug or surgeon or miracle, whatever, to save my life. Or I don't want to wake up one day and have the worst diagnosis that you can have. I don't want to wake up someday and think about how, I have this much time to live or whatever. I'm not putting my trust in things like that. I'm trying to control as much as I can. And so for me, that's my why around health. And while not perfect, I'm more consistent than I've ever seen anybody in my life with my fitness and nutrition. My buddy Logan Sneed, he's probably right up there. He might even be a little bit more consistent than me when it comes to nutrition. But I've been training since I was 18 nonstop. There was only one period of time in my life where I skipped a couple months and lost 30 pounds. And that was a major traumatic experience in my life that I went through. Aside from that, I've been training, lifting weights, exercising, doing all these things for 20 years almost. And every time I think about not training, exercising, whatever, I think about my health. I think about getting something like cancer. I think about getting a life-threatening diagnosis or illness. And I also think about how I would feel if I gained weight or whatever. And I was chubby in my 20s, and I was playing poker and eating a lot, and I kind of put some weight on, and then I got really pissed off about it, and I got my running routine down, and then I cleaned up my diet, etc. That why is like a fission reactor, never-ending source of energy that makes me do what I do and keeps me consistent. So you have to find what your why is as well. My why for wealth and money and success, it's based on a few things. Now, as an entrepreneur, dealing with the free market really makes you look at who you are, and it really is a school of hard knocks. Like, it doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care whether you think you have the best product in the world. The free market only rewards what it wants. So it is a very brutal, honest truth teller, and it makes you absorb the truth. Like, it makes you. You have no other choice in the matter. You can tell yourself all the stories you want, but when no customers show up, or when your bank account hits zero and you can't pay your employees, it's the ultimate harbinger of the truth. So one of the really important things, my whys for success and is to have freedom, sovereignty, and security for myself and now for my family, my two young boys. I don't trust governments. I don't trust politicians. I don't even necessarily believe that they're evil or out to ruin my life, but I believe that they fall victim to confirmation bias, all the biases that humans so easily succumb to, and they have different incentives than me. Our incentives are not aligned. Most people believe that their government has the same incentives as they do, but they don't. And a politician has even fewer of the same incentives. Politicians care about optics. They care about getting reelected. They care about polls. They don't care about whether this new policy, regulation, or government mingling actually does anything or is successful. They just care about what people think it might do or does. And then how many people go back and look at the politician's track record? How many go back and say, this law did this, these are the unintended consequences? A lot of stuff doesn't even get researched. The government has no incentive to even research this stuff because it generally doesn't really care about results. It cares about public perception and voting. That's it. And that's the system we now have with this mostly becoming mob rule democracy when we really should be a republic, constitutional republic. I'm not putting my sovereignty, my safety, my security, my health, my wealth into others' hands. I don't trust people I don't know, and I don't trust people when I don't believe our incentives are aligned. This is why the internet and then Bitcoin are going to go down in history as the pivotal two inventions that removed power from a consolidated source through governments, through huge umbrella corporations. Anywhere you have consolidated power, the internet and Bitcoin has now given power to the people. They've made it so the people are a Hydra. You cut down one, you censor one, you regulate one, and two sprout up in its place. All of these consolidated power sources over the next 50 to 100 years are going to crumble. There's no recourse Because again, you can't get enough guns, ammo, you can't censor enough, you can't propagandize enough to control every citizen on the planet. And you can't even do that for every citizen in your own jurisdiction. You censor Twitter, and then some other platform comes up, or people send emails, or they do things like that. You try to read people's emails and text messages, and then Telegram or other encrypted sources prop up. This is natural law. And consolidated power has always, always, always violated natural law. It's just been able to because we haven't had something like the internet, which has given a kind of anti-fragility to human citizens. So there's never been a greater time to be alive, and I'm very optimistic about our future. But, this is a big but, I don't know what's going to happen throughout this revolutionary process. I believe that we will have, I know that we will have a much more bloodless less blood revolution than in past times, because we're not shooting each other with muskets, or we've probably staved off nuclear war, although that is still a threat. We are going to have more of a war of ideas, a war of ideologies, which we already do have. You can see it in America. And whether or not we go to like the path of Canada, where, for example, a man the other day was arrested for calling his biological female daughter because she identifies as a male and wants to be called like him, and he didn't do it. And so a judge issued an arrest warrant for him for doing that. Now, whether America follows suit with that kind of nonsense remains to be seen. It's very possible we could go that route. So my why for having money, wealth, security is to be able to leave America and go somewhere else that treats me better if I need to. It's to have the ultimate flexibility as a global citizen, not just an American citizen. The internet and Bitcoin are the two things that are going to bring the same opportunities to all citizens around the world. And as more governments try to fight it off, people will find a way around, and it will be like fighting a Hydra. So every one citizen they cut down, two more will spring up in its place. This is why now every piece of content I put out, the same call to action every single time is going to be buy Bitcoin, don't sell it, keep it, and get a passport. No matter where you live in the world, you need a way in and out of other countries if things go really bad. Bitcoin is your ultimate insurance policy. It's also going to end up being one of the greatest investments you've ever made. Though I don't look at it as investment, so this isn't investment advice. This is just something that you need to own and hold, like you would own extra food in your pantry, or maybe you have some guns and ammo, or maybe you have some extra water, or maybe you have a generator, etc. Moving into the future, as governments try to exert more control over their citizens, these things are going to become more important. And it's going to be less about hunkering down and having a bunch of resources, physical resources. It's going to be more about having mobility to leave and go places where the government hasn't lost its mind. And then that's how free markets will work. We already see it happening with California. People are leaving California in droves because California politicians are complete utter morons, and just the liberal nonsense that's been going on there for years have destroyed the state. Same thing with New York. A lot of people are coming to Texas. I just hope that we don't go the same route. And then for me, I have backup options, including Mexico, Costa Rica, maybe Thailand, Philippines, things like that. Especially places where my Bitcoin and or dollars go a long way. At least for now, the dollars still go a long way. So I always have the opportunity to leave and go ride it out somewhere else. Maybe it's for a few years, maybe it's forever. Just because I was born onto this little patch of soil doesn't mean I have to be beholden to that government. And the same is true for you, wherever you're watching this. The entire idea of government control and consolidated power is a violation of natural law. I won't get into all the reasons why in the history, whatever. It's the world we live in now. But like I said, internet and Bitcoin is your greatest opportunity to become anti-fragile to it. Not just robust, not just like I'm safe, but actually you would benefit if these things go awry. Now we hope it doesn't, because it's going to be a lot of suffering for a lot of people. But if it does, and you've prepared, maybe you have a little bit of silver and gold stowed away that you can kind of take with you. You have your Bitcoin, you have your passport. Those that have prepared will become the most powerful people on the planet. Now, hopefully it just doesn't create a new paradigm of power and struggle. Hopefully it's more about bringing prosperity to all. Hopefully we can immediately get to that prosperity for all, a decentralized model, sovereignty to humans, smaller city-states where citizens basically vote and self-govern themselves. And if things go bad, you leave, etc. That's how we're going to get to a world that best respects human rights. That's going to be a world where the sovereign individual human has the power, and it's going to lead to a better world for all, more equality for all, and it's going to respect natural law. Now, getting there, I don't know what's going to happen to get there, but I do know that for my lifetime and my sons and so on and so forth, I want to pass down the legacy of awareness, of safety, of security, of sovereignty, help promote these ideas to other people like you watching this right now. And then over time, as more people accept that they have a natural right to natural laws, to natural rights and freedoms and sovereignty, governments will have no choice but to respect that, because if they don't respect it, another government will welcome them with open arms, and then that government will collapse. This is how a free market works. If you provide a shitty product, people won't buy it. Government is a product. Most of us can go anywhere in the world, and we just have this mindset that we have to stay where we're at and our community's there and we grew up there, etc. So we have this bias to the way we've lived and what we know. But there are places around the world that you can go and live amazing, and with little to no government intervention. And there's pros and cons of everything, of course. But as America becomes more of a socialist democracy and likely to lead to full-blown socialism with like UBI and things like that, and then all the laws and regulations and freedoms that are going to be taken away throughout that process, you go somewhere else. And as more people do that, as more people leave, you will take power with you. And over time, this process will force change, or the government will collapse. That's the free market. Just like any business goes bankrupt, if it doesn't service customers the way they want, government will go the same route. It will just take a long time because, again, governments aren't beholden to free markets and they control, manipulate, and etc. So buy Bitcoin, buy Passport, get on the Better Human newsletter, Colin.coach. I'll see you in the next one.